after this year, I'm going to be starting my 12th year at North Star. Time has flown. It seems like yesterday y'all invited me to join the team, and it just had me thinking. I was just wondering, 1992, we're 26. You guys are 26 years into this thing. Any thoughts about that? I mean, what's some of the differences we're seeing from 1992 to 2018?
It would be easier to say what is the same than what is different. OSHA rules and regulations, patient safety, having protocols now instead of having to call in for orders, being able to actually do stuff without seeking permission first it was unheard of when we opened in 1992. Before, if you wanted to start an IV, you had to call and talk to a physician to get an order to start a line.
Yeah.
Now we start lines, we give a lot of medications, purely based on protocol, and that was simply unheard of.
Patient care was always most important, but it seems like today it's not just patient care, it's customer service. I mean, we want to have people put their trust in us and, call us when they need us, certainly 911 calls and also the non-emergency calls. But I'm just finding today more over than not, I mean, most people, it's the way you're interacting with not just the patient, but the patient's family that really makes a difference in the overall success of our organization.
True. So kind of if you do unto others as you would have them do unto you, to me, is customer service. So what kind of service do you expect? Part of the reason I think customer service becomes difficult in healthcare, particularly in EMS, is because we see patients and families at likely the worst or most difficult time in their life. So I think the expectation becomes higher, or maybe the difficulty of being nice to somebody who is experiencing a very stressful event. I think you kind of have to go a step further than you would at the dry cleaners, or when you go to Jack's to buy a hamburger. I couldn't agree with you more. Customer service is critical, and in a lot of situations defines, for the patient and the family, how much you care about their loved ones.
So Ed, as director of ops for North Star, it seemed that back in the day, there didn't seem to be as much of a problem with recruitment and retention back then, whereas today it seems like we're having some issues with that. Any thoughts or perspectives on the type of employee we're seeing out there today?
One, to some degree, EMS is a younger person's profession because it is a physical type profession.
Sure.
So as you get older, lifting people and doing some of the work that we do becomes very difficult.
Yeah.
But really, I think to some degree we do a poor job of introducing people to this field. I think we lose that ability to contact somebody coming straight out of high school, get them interested in this profession, and then put them right into the mix. You get them interested in this profession, and then it's 3 years sometimes before they can work.
Right.
Certainly before they can go on emergency calls and transport to the hospital. It's not unusual for us to have a paramedic now that's never driven an ambulance. They've been all the way through paramedic school, but they're still too young to drive. So I think there are a lot of issues that affect our ability to recruit and retain people. When you get to a point that you're Facebook friends with somebody and you actually were involved in their resuscitation, I mean, you see them at the beach, you see them on a family vacation.
Right.
Once you experience that, I don't think there's a more rewarding profession. It's a matter of getting young people today who are wondering where they're going to go that type of experience.
Having data is important. Having data, having access to that data gives us information that we can use to make our service better, the service we provide our patients better.
We've kind of moved to outcome studies, or we're beginning to move to outcome studies. So it's not so much like in the 80s and 90s where you listed the things you did and you were reimbursed for those procedures, so to speak. We picked up a patient, transported him by ambulance to the hospital, and we got reimbursed for that. Now there's an evolution toward, is what you're doing, accomplishing an end result. If you have an employee that has a 100% success rate on IV insertion, how did that impact patient outcome? Or does IV insertion impact patient outcome at all?
Sure.
Outside of the hospital? If it does, is it a positive impact or a negative impact?
And we may find that for some reason on scene calls have a 90% success rate and truck calls have a 45% success rate, which tells us we need to start getting our employees to start them on the scene. Or it may be vice versa. We may find that, because of where the patient is, it's dark, it's in the rain, it's what we need to start them in the back of a truck. That's a way that we can look at data that we can't look at now to find answers to those questions, which are the kind of things that CMS is going to want to know.
Yeah.